Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use dual head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun. I know it's taken me a while, viewers, to actually get around to this. I know that Ian Seabrook drove one of these on his channel a while ago, but here we are, a first generation Ford Ka. And it's not just any first generation Ford Ka, this is a really early one. Do apologise, viewers, my phone decided that it would do a software update despite having the radio unit off. I hate that kind of thing. Anyway, yeah, it's a very early one. It's 97, so it's almost 26 years old, this car. It's about March 97, and it's a Ka2. We'll have a look at the original brochure for the car when it came out in September 1996 a little bit, but the Ka2 was basically an option pack for the car originally, and the 2 was added by dealers. It wasn't actually officially as a trim level as such. That came later, and there were many more trim levels. But when the car was first launched, there aren't any trim levels in the brochure. There are lots of options. You could have a leather interior, you could have alloy wheels, you could have power steering, you could have air conditioning, later you could have ABS. But when the car came out, it was very basic. Now there are 3 different ways of pronouncing the name. You can say car, Ka, or Ka. And Ford, at various points in their history, have actually used all 3. I'm going to go with the pronunciation that Jeremy Clarkson actually used when he did his review in Top Gear back in the day, which is Ka. I've always said Ka. That's the one I'm going to go with. The other ones are perfectly acceptable as well, because Ford themselves have used them, but I'm going to go with Ka. This has the original dealer plates on it. It's actually supplied originally by Benjamin Ascot. That, amazingly, is the original dealer sticker. I couldn't believe it. I asked Jonathan, who owns this car, and has supplied many cars to John before, Ford Puma, Ford Escort, and the Mark III Astra CD, if he'd replaced it, and he said he hadn't, which is amazing. And also, this car has absolutely no rust on it outside. There is a little bit on the inside of one of the doors, but there's no rust anywhere on this. We haven't got any sort of down here, we haven't got any down the front, and particularly relevant for those of you who know these cars, we don't have any rust round here. There's absolutely none round the filler caps, which is where they tend to go. There's nothing. Just amazing. You don't see, especially these early ones, you do not see them without rust. So I'm very privileged to be able to drive this. And apparently he didn't actually even pay No Budget Reviews money for this. He paid less than the budget, which is crazy. Need the key to get in. It's the same with the old Mark III Fiestas, which was still on sale actually about the time that this car was made. They were just coming out of production about then. The Mark IV being on sale was 95, of course, and this is based on the Mark IV chassis and Mark V chassis because they're the same, which is a sort of heavily revised version of the Mark III. So they're very similar in many ways. Many components are the same. The engine, for example, is exactly the same as a Mark III Fiesta, but just updated slightly for emissions purposes. So we don't even have the spare wheel. The spare wheel is actually under the floor. What I've noticed as well with this car, but the boot's really tiny, by the way. It's about the same as, I don't know, Seat Rossa, Volkswagen Lupo, that was sort of rivals to this. Still got the parcel shelf in it as well, which is good. I'm not going to get down now, but there's a way of checking if this is a really early car by looking at the rear suspension, because the very early ones like this use an unmodified rear beam bar. I can never remember between a torsion bar and a torsion beam. I don't remember the difference between them, but anyway, the rear axle is a Fiesta one, whereas after about 13 months they changed it for a unique one to the car. This has got the early axle in it. So if we look inside here, you can see the sill here is going to need some attention. It's already been touched up sort of here. It's not looking good there. That is going to be addressed, because you can see if there's got a cover on there, so obviously something's been going on. So it's not a perfect car. That's why it was under budget. And it has been cleaned up a bit. The plastics have been done, which makes it look a lot better than it did, and also the awful Halfords wheel trims that are on it have been changed for some genuine ones. It's a tiny little door pocket. Also got a little tear in here. Apparently that's really common on cars, a little tear there, but it doesn't really detract very much from the just amazing general condition of this. You do not see them like this anymore. Hello camera, can you focus properly please? That's better. Right. Absolutely nothing in here really. There is no engine temperature gauge. There is no... Don't do that again. That's better. There is no rev counter. You don't get that in a Ka1 or a Ka2. You would do in maybe a Ka3 or a luxury car, but not in this one. We don't really have a proper glove box. We have this funny thing here, but I mean, that's not going to replace a glove box, is it? But the basic ones didn't even get this at all. That was an option. You could even get like a better box than that. You could get one that, I don't know why the focus is bad. There we go. You get a better box than that for there. I think Jeremy Clarkson, the one he drove on Top Gear, had the optional box. But yeah, that's not very good, is it, viewers? So we have a clock. It's very obviously that is the correct time. These stalks I think are lifted straight out of the Mark IV Fiesta. No surprise. The steering wheel's unique though. It's quite pleasant really. It sort of matches all this moulded plastic here. The vents are really simple. You want to close the vents, you just do that. You can angle them up and down like that, but if you want to close them, just do that. Stereo is very simple. See if we've got something in here. You press both these buttons together to eject it like this. Ooh. Now that's what I call music 36. Excellent, viewers. Look down here. We've actually got a contemporary album there. We've got Urban Hymns by The Verve. That will have, I think, Bittersweet Symphony on it. Excellent. I'm not going to sing, viewers, because one, it's not good for your ears, and also it's not good for my copyright status on YouTube. This car's genuinely done 54,000 miles. Obviously, the mileometer is only 5 digits, and so that could be 154,000 miles. But looking at the MOT history, it is not. There's not really much else to say. It's all very user-friendly in here. It's a bit of a different experience from the Mark IV Fiesta dash, which is pretty good in its own right, to be honest, but it is different. But the door pockets are absolutely tiny. They are really small. Of course, you couldn't get any car with electric rear windows because the windows pop out anyway, so that's it. Right, Mr. Manning from Matty's Cars channel, we shall have to get in the back because he says I must, and so I shall. Oh, it's not as bad as I remember. I've been in one of these before, and yeah, it's actually not that bad. My gosh, do I actually fit in here? I mean, my legs don't fit very well. There's a little bar under there, so you can't slide your feet under it and scuff your shoes, but that's not too bad, actually. My head's right against the roof, but yeah, it's only a 4-seater. It is shorter than a Mark IV Fiesta, of course. And we've got these nets as well. A little bit weak, but it's a 26-year-old car. What do you expect? Lots of exposed metal in here, and then pop-up rear window. Free myself from a self-imposed prison, and just got sort of plastic on the on the back of these seats. You know, it isn't a luxury cat or a luxury car. Oh, that's a terrible joke, viewers. I do apologise. Just the way it goes in this channel, I'm afraid. Right, let's have a look under the bonnet, shall we? If this engine looks like an old OHV engine with a fuel injection system put on top, that's because it is. The Endura-E, or the Valencia engine, which was called before that, HCS, load of different names. It originally dates back to 1959. It's a modified version of the one from the 105E Anglia, the one that, you know, Harry Potter famously publicised in those books and films, by the Weasley family, I believe, if you're being technical about it. It produces 59 horsepower. The car was specifically designed around this engine, and you'd think, well, why don't you just put the Zetec SE stroke Sigma stroke Duratec engine in this from the Mark 4 and 5 Fiesta? That would be fine, wouldn't it? It doesn't fit. You can't get it in. It doesn't fit. So when this engine was not deemed suitable for Euro 4 emissions regulations in the early 2000s, obviously that came in 1st of January 2006, Ford decided that they had to find another engine because they hadn't designed it with that in mind, which is stupid, really, because, you know, that goes into the Fiesta, Puma. It started to go into the Focuses from the Mark II onwards, and it's, I think, still in production for crate engine purposes. It's a very, very good engine, actually, the Sigma. But they instead went to Ford of Brazil, I think it was, and they said, well, you're producing this Rocam engine, could you please ship us some of those? And I think they made them in like South Africa or something really weird like that. And so the Zetec Rocam is the one that's fitted to cars after 2002. Produces a little bit more power, about 70 horsepower. With the 1.3 version, I think it's 1242 actually, but they call it 1.3. It might be a little bit more than that, I can't remember. 1242, actually that's a Zetec SE, sorry. No, just call it 1.3 and make it simpler. And then there's a 1.6 version as well, between the sport car and the street car. Produced about 95 horsepower. 59 horsepower didn't sound like a lot, and actually in Brazil they thought it was too much, so they actually produced a 1 litre version of this Endura-E as well. I think you could run that on different types of fuel as well. It's a flex fuel engine. But the oil filter on these Endura-E engines is actually right at the back. It's sort of underneath the bulkhead, so it's a bit of a difficult to get to. And I seem to remember as well, if you want to change a headlamp bulb, one of the easiest ways of doing it is to take the wheel out. Just take the wheel off, and it's a bit easier to do it. But I might be wrong about that. But yeah, very similar structure apart from that to a Mark 4 or 5 Fiesta. And apparently they're quite safe in a crash as well. One of my friends crashed one of these once, and it was always all right. So obviously quite a strong little car, Ka. There we go, look at this. It's very glossy, but it's strange, it's on the outside. Got this kind of sort of what do they call this? Sort of natural colour on it. Maybe they're sort of thinking of the environment. Built in Spain, of course, probably taken in Spain. See here, there's lots of different sort of design elements for new edge design that they were going for at the time. I think the project leader on the car for the design of it was Richard Parry Jones. There we go, look, there's an even simpler like radio on some of these. This is an upgraded radio. It's unbelievable, isn't it? And you can see on that car, it doesn't even have the insert there for the glove box, or what's the glove box. So yeah, that's the optional radio is this one. Yeah, precise steering, crisp acceleration. Well, we'll find out about that, won't we? Yeah, the driver's airbag was standard. Any other airbags tended to be optional or not available on some trims. You can see there's a space for the passenger airbag there, but this hasn't got one. So there's all the colours there. That dark green, the autumn green, is my favourite. You can see some of the things here. actually the fuel consumption is worse with the power steering. So when the power steering became a standard item in '97, you could actually delete it if you didn't want it, which is amazing. I don't know many cars that have been launched where you can delete the power steering. But yeah, there's some information there. Look at all these options: airbag, air conditioning, central locking, the Ford compact phone. I'll show you that in a second. The seat pack with height adjustment. This car doesn't have that actually. As far as I know, passenger seat release handle. My God, it's an option. Yeah. Later on, you could get ABS, but not at the time that this car was made. You could have alloy wheels on your car as well, and a leather interior, and a compact disc concertina. And look at that, the Ford branded mobile phone, not just a Ford branded mobile phone, a Ford Ka branded mobile phone. But those are rare, aren't they now? Leather steering wheel. So the 2 was basically just like an option pack with most of the sort of popular options on it, and the badge just been added by the dealers later. Got some reflection there. Right, I think it's time to go for a drive, viewers. Right, viewers, time for a little spin. Can't go too far today, I'm afraid, because there's not time. But just pottering around here. Up near Brighton, it's very good. The gearbox is an amazing thing. It's delightful to use. I think it's called a Ford IB5 unit. It's the same as the Mark 4 and 5 Fiesta. The engine's a bit tappety, just the way that they are, and it's only got a 59 horsepower, so you're not really going to be running any races in this. Oh gosh, that service is bad. Actually, this car's not doing too badly with that. I'm told the suspension in this car's quite worn, but to be honest, it's actually not that bad considering how old the car is. So 0 to 60 in this it's nothing great. You wouldn't expect that. The newer engine, the Zetec Roadcam 1.3, I have driven one of those, and it's a bit smoother than this, but it's still a chain cam engine, so it's maybe not the smoothest ever. It actually has a reasonable amount of torque. This, you can drop it into 4th at about 25 miles an hour and it just pulls. So yeah, for just driving around the city, the driving position's actually not too bad in this. It's better than I was expecting. So yeah, even if I'm told the suspension's a bit worn, it feels to me absolutely fine. It just feels very easy. There's no drama with this at all. I can see why so many people have chosen these over the years as first cars. It's got a very sort of friendly personality to it. There's no explanation needed for sort of tricky gearboxes or clutches or anything like that. With this power steering, it makes the car very, very easy and light to manoeuvre. If you want more power than 59, you can always go for the later 70 horsepower Zetec Roadcam engine, the 1.3, or you can go for a 1.6 sport car or street car. Turning circle's very good. There we go, round a mini roundabout, no problem there. It picks up well enough, particularly at these sort of lower speeds, it's absolutely fine. The 1.6 cars do 0 to 60 in less than 10 seconds. I'm sure they're nice to drive, but the sport cars in particular have almost disappeared now. They're very, very rare. Street cars, there are a few more of those around. I'm just not really into myself a car with sort of folding roof. It's not really me. I've had a car with one of those and it didn't work out very well, so just not particularly something that I would have, but some of you might want that. It's just wonderful kind of, in this guy's anyway, this early one, like a bit of a modern classic really. The engines were used for so long in these, and you know, the Mark 3, 4, 5 Fiesta and the Puma, are sort of well known and people know how to work on them still. You still see them around. So it's a very good choice for somebody who just wants to get into stuff. But the majority of these are disappearing really fast, and I have a viewer who's recently had to scrap his because of the rust. So you've got to watch it. You absolutely have to if you're going to buy one of these, and make sure as well the engine's been serviced properly, because if you use 530 oil in one of these Endura-E engines, it's actually not going to work particularly well. You need to use 1040 oil in these, despite what was originally recommended. Let's now look at some trim levels for the car. And as you could expect for a car that was in production for 12 years, there are loads. The Ka, the Ka2, the 2 aquamarine frost, the 2 blue, the 2 citrus gold, the 2 copper, the 2 green, the 2 Pacific green, and the 2 silver. I don't know why these have been listed separately as trim levels, because they just sound like the range of colours available with the car at some time. It's very strange. And the black, the collection replaced the Ka3. No, sorry, the two. I do apologise for 2. It replaced the 2 around the year, I think it was year 2000, and it didn't get these unpainted bumpers anymore. The design 2. The finale, that was the one made right at the end of production. The luxury couch replaced the 3. I get that right. The millennium that was available in that sort of yellow colour. The silver, the sport car SE, yeah, the sport car had 2 trim levels. The studio, the style climate. If the car had climate next to its name, then that meant it had air conditioning. The style 2-tone. The sublime, I think the sublime, not the ridiculous, the sublime had I think silver bumpers and things, you know, these sort of big things that are unpainted on this. The Sun collection, I think, had a folding roof. And then very familiar trim level, the Zetec Climate, the Zetec 2-tone, and of course the street car itself. There's also a Ka2, which was briefly marketed to replace the base car, or Ka2, some people call it. But lots and lots of trim levels for such a tiny little car. So viewers, should you consider a Ford Ka with your hard-earned budget up to £1,000? Well, if you could find one that's actually been serviced properly and one that's not rusty, then quite possibly. I will just read you a list of things to look out for when you're thinking of buying one of these. It's always stiff, really, that these are sort of like starter classics now. They're becoming old enough for that kind of thing. This car is 26 years old, for example. They are quite simple to work on generally, compared with, like, you know, a modern one. So I've looked at the Parker's website, which is quite a good source actually sometimes of treble points on old cars like this. So the rust is bad. It's bad. So yeah, sills, like this one, rear arches, not like this one, fuel filler, not like this one, but yeah, you see them everywhere, don't you? Behind the bumper and the plastic arches, the car can some rust without someone noticing. The boot can fill with water, the car's spilling damp, this is fine. The front can rust, but on the bulkhead and inner wings. So yeah, if you see a high spec one of these in a sport car with the unpainted bumpers, there's something funny going on. So yeah, the Endura-E Valencia, originally based on the old Kent engine. It's a bit rattly, even this one, and this is a quiet Endura-E engine, this one. You can get head gasket failure, you can have valve stem seals failing and general wear, but it's quite easy to fix it, really, generally. Got to watch your consumption. This one's fine though. The good old PCV system. Yeah. I'm not fond of when PCV systems break, viewers. You know that. Don't forget to put the oil cap properly on before driving. With the 1.3 Zetec, or Zetec road cam, it's called sometimes, That's also a chain engine like this one, but it's an overhead cam engine. A lot of the issues are to do with ignition, coil, the leads and the plugs. Sport car, street car, it's a very similar engine. Yeah, then there's not really much else that's different to say in terms of problems. Suspension, brakes, and handling. It's not actually that bad in terms of safety, but by standards of today, it's obviously not great because it's a very old car. Suspension can have worn bushes. It's cheap to fix. The rear suspension beam can rust. Yep. Check the brakes. The car doesn't pull. Make sure the ABS light doesn't stay on. Make sure it has the right keys. This one's got the right key actually. It's got the master that's still in it. I'll just get that out. It's actually a red key, this one. Looks like this. So you want to make sure that actually you've got that if you want to make some more keys. The luxury car, I think, actually had the quick clear windscreen on it, which was an amazing feature for a very cheap car like this. But yeah, I always know something to bear in mind is that you don't get an auto. You can never get an auto in any car, just a manual. That might be mute to the ears of a lot of you, but some of you will want something different. So what you want, really, isn't it?